Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
There we go. Welcome to the Ice Guys. Monday, April the 13th. Ian Cameron with you. Solo show today. Alex will be back tomorrow on the Tuesday show and ready to break it down with us once again. So it's just me and you, us, if you will, here on this Monday show. It's a big Monday card. We're not used to these on Monday, but this is the final week of the regular season. Obviously, with the season ending Thursday, there's more of a push to get the games done, get the games in down the stretch of the regular season. So as a result, we got 10 games here for this Monday night in NHL action. We'll get to those in just a moment. We'll look back first on what we saw Sunday. And what we saw Sunday was, obviously, we started with Pittsburgh and Washington Capitals with a 3-0 shutout win. And for one of the few rare instances of late, we do not hit a Pittsburgh over that stays easily under the total. So still, I think, 17-3 the last 20 Pittsburgh games to the over. But you know, it was very, very low event, which you don't often see in a Penguins-Capitals game. But Washington gets the job done to put themselves in a spot where, at least as of now, things can change, obviously, tonight with what goes on in Philadelphia. But as of now, they've set it up so that there's meaning at the moment for their next game tomorrow night against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So it'll be interesting to see if that game still matters for the Washington Capitals tomorrow night. But it was just what I will say about the whole Ovechkin stuff during that game. The pictures with Crosby and Malkin, you know, the ovation at the end of the game, the video tribute late in the third period. It certainly looks like the stars are aligning that he's going to retire, you know, at the end of the season. And it's just crazy to see all this hoop pomp and circumstance and all this stuff going down with people thinking this could be it for Alex Ovechkin. And then he decides in the summer, well, you know what? I think I still got some gas in the tank. I still got the passion for the game. I've still got a desire to play, to do the training in the off season, and I'm coming back. Could you imagine he announces that and we do all this stuff that we've been seeing here, the nonsense that we've seen here? I shouldn't say nonsense, because if it is the end for Ovechkin, all of this is warranted. But could you imagine if we go to all this trouble here the last few days, saluting the grade 8 Alex Ovechkin, and only for him to turn around in the summer sometime, hey, I feel like I got another year left in me. I'm coming back. So like I said, I'm not so sure this is the end. He's going to decide, obviously, in the summer, but obviously, in case this is the end, they've gone to these lengths to do this these special tributes for him. But Washington gets a 3-0 win there against the Penguins yesterday. Montreal, 4-1 win, officially eliminating the New York Islanders from playoff contention. Very solid win for Montreal, and it's just proof that, look, Peter DeBoer didn't sign up just to be on board this season and get them into the playoffs. Obviously, there's a long-term goal in mind. There's obviously going to have to be some changes with the Islander roster. I think when you look at, I think Matthew Darche has to look in the mirror. Some of these deals that he's made over the last few years were absolutely atrocious when you look at it. I mean, my goodness, Andre Palat stands out. That one was just an all-time gaffe, an all-time bad one. From Matthew Darche. How in the hell you thought that Andre Palat, at this stage of his career, was really going to have the guy could barely get into the lineup late in the season for this New York Islanders team. So I think Matthew Darche has made some mistakes. I don't want to, come raining down with a ton of criticism toward him because, look, he's just a rookie general manager. It's his first year. You got to cut him a little bit of slack. Let him learn from these experiences. Let him learn from these setbacks and mistakes. And get better, in terms of decision-making from that. But certainly he's made his share of, gaffes as far as the roster is concerned. So he's got to be culpable for what's gone on. Obviously, there was an element of the team kind of tuning out Patrick Waugh, or Patrick Waugh's, way of doing things kind of not working down the stretch when the Islanders played their worst hockey, when the games mattered most, March and into April. That's a concern as well. I just think this roster, too, there's some age to it. Pajot's not getting any younger. Duclair's an old guy now. Barzal is going to be in 30s now. You brought in Braden Shen, but he's not a young chicken anymore. at this stage of his career. Even Anders Lee, Bo Horvat, there's not young guys anymore on this team. So need a little more speed and a little more youth infusion in my mind. Obviously, you've got a cornerstone and a pillar of strength to build around on D with Matthew Schaefer. And the season he had was absolutely incredible. But you certainly have to make some adjustments here as far as, I think you also need to be a little bit stronger as far as a little more offensive punch, center ice position too. We'll have to wait. So there's another guy that's been around forever, and he's older now. He's well into his 30s. Casey Cizikas. Can you keep going with him as a fourth line center for this team? Like I said, there's a lot of long in the tooth to this Islanders team. Carson Soucy was not a good move too. I mean, he struggled. Let's be honest. We can't sugarcoat it. He didn't play well. He struggled in his own end. He struggled in his own end for a while now. Carson Soucy. It's tough to see it, but you got to be honest and admit what's been going on. And of course, you got Pelican, Pulock. These guys, half the season are injured all the time. And it's been multiple years of this from them. Tony DeAngelo, he can be good at times, but then he can screw loose at times and takes a bad penalty and does something that's a disservice to his team. So, like I said, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of things that need to get cleaned up and I think improved as far as roster construction for this New York Islanders team. But it's a good starting step bringing in Peter DeBoer. Peter DeBoer has a track record of success, especially in the regular season. He'll have a full training camp with the Islanders starting in September. That's going to be a good thing for them. But there's no doubt, the New York Islanders are a team that's got to clean things up and certainly look to improve this roster a little bit. And Matthew Darche got to learn from some of the mistakes he's made, as a general manager here in his first year. But the Montreal Canadiens, with that win, flipping to Montreal, they stay alive to win the Atlantic, which still can be done. Columbus. Everybody in the chat's already commenting about what to expect with the Flyers, who can clinch a playoff spot with a win tonight, and talking about how sometimes teams in these pressure spots can't handle it. Columbus has not been able to handle it multiple times. They get a huge road win against Montreal, back home against the Boston Bruins, and can't get it done. I thought the effort was good, but again, Rick Bowness said it perfectly in the postgame. They didn't make good plays with the puck. They didn't execute well. Passes weren't sharp. Finishing touch was not there. And just those little elements of what it takes to score goals and finish in a big game like that, they were missing for the Columbus Blue Jackets, who end up losing 3-2 to the Boston Bruins. That's now they're mathematically alive, but gosh, they need everything to go their way now to get in, and they have to win out and get a ton of help, and it's probably not happening. That was a game they pretty much had to have, the Columbus Blue Jackets. The fact they didn't get that victory puts them in a spot where it's almost over for them. It would be a miracle of epic proportions for Columbus to make it at this point. Give the Bruins credit. It was nice to see James Higgins in his NHL debut for the Boston Bruins. He looked pretty solid for his first game. They've already said, Marco Sturm said that James Higgins will play in his TD Garden debut tomorrow when they play the New Jersey Devils. So it'll be good to see him make that home debut. I thought Korpisalo was very, very solid. And, as if the Blue Jackets have not had enough pain and torture and disappointment in 25 years of existence, they see Jonas Korpisalo, a former Jacket goaltender, play like that and end up being a main catalyst here to possibly another year out of the playoffs for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So it's just pain upon pain, really, if you're a Jackets fan. Best bet winner, Ottawa, New Jersey over. We cashed that one, 4-3 Devils win in overtime. And I kind of pivoted as the show went along yesterday because, look, early in the day, I liked Ottawa, but then you started to read the tea leaves and that certain players were going to be rested. And it ended up being that Brady Tkachuk, Timmy Stützle, Jake Sanderson, Thomas Chabot, they were all rested last night for Ottawa against New Jersey. So you could kind of tell they weren't taking that game with the utmost emphasis. And in fact, there could be some goals scored both ways. James Reimer in net for the Senators. We talked about, too, how Nico Dawes was starting for New Jersey. His numbers weren't great. So it just made all the sense in the world for me to pivot a lot more to the total in that game. I'm glad I did. 4-3 win there for the New Jersey Devils, so we cashed the best bet with the over in that one. Calgary beats Utah 4-1. This is pretty much a no-harm, no-foul game from a betting standpoint. We cashed the first period over, which continues to be a machine, almost automatic for Utah. It's now, I believe, 13-1, I think, to the over in the last 14. It's either 12-1 or 13-1, but it's been a massive first period over streak for the Utah Mammoth. It continued last night. The full game over fell short, but it ended up being a split there in that game. I mean, Anaheim, that's disappointing. I mean, I don't want to hear, we had chances. You got to win that game. It was a big night. You had a chance to clinch a playoff spot, and I think they're still going to clinch. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a question of when, not if they clinch, but that was the spot to do it. Vancouver Canucks on a back-to-back, by far the worst team in the NHL. It's your fan appreciation night. It's your last home game. They did a ton of special tributes throughout the night to Steve Carroll. It was his last play-by-play broadcast as the radio voice of the Anaheim Ducks last night. You got Cutter Gauthier back in the lineup. I mean, it was set up for you on a freaking silver platter to clinch the playoff spot and get it done last night. And now you're in the spot where you still need another point. Now, they did get 1 point, and that 1 point was big because now it means Anaheim only needs 1 point to get a playoff spot, but you should have won that game last night, period. That's a terrible loss. I don't care how they try to spin it. That's not a good loss at all for the Anaheim Ducks last night. It was a terrible penalty in overtime to take as well, turning the puck over like that. And look, I don't care who you're playing, even if it is Vancouver, you give a team a 4-on-3 power play in overtime, that's trouble. That's not easy to kill that shit off. And Anaheim found that out the hard way. And they've had issues with Vancouver. They continue to have issues with Vancouver. If you look at the recent series history, Ducks and Canucks, Vancouver has won a lot of games over the years against Anaheim. So I guess we shouldn't be that shocked that it was this difficult for Anaheim last night. But because of that, they've still got work to do to end the playoff drought and punch their playoff ticket. And now they go to Minnesota against the Wild last night. And we'll get to Minnesota because they're playing tonight in St. Louis. They're in the business of resting players right now, Minnesota. So Anaheim might catch a break tomorrow night. Maybe we won't see some of the Minnesota regulars tomorrow night when they host Anaheim, but that's a missed opportunity and a very, very stinging loss there for the Anaheim Ducks in that one. So like I said, the one thing I was concerned about with that, the one good news in that game, we did have Vancouver goal in the first period. We did have the full game over in that game, which was good. The system play comes through again. You bet the goal in the first period for the underdog against a minus 300 or greater favorite. It came through for us once again with Vancouver scoring in the first. That was great to see. No question about that. But yeah, like I said, it's tough. And look, I agree with what Robert's saying. The more I watch our guy Seneca, I got to say it with a little tremble in my voice now because he's been scuffling lately. He's been struggling. His offense is kind of dried up of late. And you see he's in the box too much. He's taken some bad penalties, turnovers at bad times. His offense hasn't been there. Remember, this kid's very young still, straight out of junior essentially. And you can tell, these late season games that become more important, they're tougher to win. It's tougher to play in these games. You're getting defended harder. You're getting checked harder. It's harder to get to the middle of the ice. It's hard to get to those areas to score goals at this time of year. And I think it's a situation right here where we're seeing that right now from Seneca and maybe a couple of the other younger Anaheim players too in the last few games. So, buckling under the weight and the enormity, of these games. So like I said, he's a very young player. He's going to be an excellent player. He's shown flashes of absolute tremendous play this year, Beckett Seneca. But at the same point in time, it's a situation where at this point in time, late in the season, there's been some problems right now with him as far as just his level of play. It's declined. It's dropped a bit. It's dipped. There's no denying that whatsoever. So that is something, like I said, and if you're seeing that too from the Anaheim collective right now, I got to be honest, Dostal's not been anything special lately. Like, I know it was a quick shot. He had to move post to post on the Rossi goal in overtime, but it went right through him. That's the kind of goal that when Dostal's totally dialed in, he's not going to give up a goal like that. So he bears some responsibility too. But like I said, very disappointing, very disheartening. That being said, that 1 point they did pick up in the loss was valuable, and they're only still 1 point away from clinching a playoff spot, this Anaheim team. But like I said, now they still have work to do. All right, we have work to do we have a Monday Night NHL card to break down, and we will do it starting right now. We will begin with the Detroit Red Wings taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. We've got Tampa Bay minus 190, home favorites in this game. The total here sitting at looks like 6 across the board, 6.5 actually at some spots as far as this game is concerned. This is the time of year where even me, a very, very high volume bettor and handicapper, and it's not just this way for me in NHL. It's all sports. I'm a very high volume bettor. High volume, low units is the approach, and it's worked for me quite well, very well. I couldn't imagine going back to the old way where, I only bet a couple of games and go bigger on them. That's where I wasn't doing as well. If I go high volume and I say, you know what, there's value, it's worth a bet, you bet it, and you go high volume and lower units, that's where my greater ROI and greater profit has come from. That's why. It's exactly why I'm a high volume bettor, because it's just it's better fit for me. I have more success. The results are better. Whereas if I try to cut myself off at the knees and go and get cute and try to go with 2-3 plays on a given night, that's when I get in trouble. And too many times it was 1-2, 0-3. And that's when I said, that's enough of that. High volume. If you like it enough to bet it, you bet it. Simple. And that's where, and I've done my best work ever since then. That being said, for as high volume a bettor as I am, this is really that time of year where I go a little bit lower volume, less plays, less bets at this time of year, these last, 2, 3, 4 games of the regular season. And this is one of those games where I'm not all that excited about betting it. I first of all, Detroit, forget about it. Not going to be another Red Wings bet for me the rest of the season. But, Detroit is such a stupid team, and I say that I don't mean to rag on the poor Red Wings fans. I know I busted the balls of the Red Wings enough over the weekend after they got knocked out on the show Sunday when we did the recap. But it would just be so typical of Detroit to just, lose to New Jersey at home in a game that you had to have in order to keep your playoff hopes alive. See yourself get officially eliminated from playoff contention after that loss. Turn around, go down to Tampa tonight and win. I mean, that would be so Detroit to do that. Now, I don't trust them to do that. I don't love the vibe around the dressing room after that game. It was like a funeral procession inside Detroit Red Wings dressing room after that loss to New Jersey. But like I said, it would be so Detroit to go down to Tampa and win. When now that the pressure's off, the games don't matter, the season's over, you're not making the playoffs. It would just be so Detroit to do that. And I wouldn't totally put it past them to do that. But, I was trying to get a feel for what the mindset was for Tampa Bay. I know John Cooper said, we're going to play the games and it is what it is. Focus on us. We're not, we know we are in tough now to win the division, but we still have home ice advantage to play for. At the very least, if we finish second in the Atlantic, we're going to have home ice advantage in the first round. So like I said, they sound like they're interested in doing that. One thing is for sure, John Gibson has not been confirmed yet, and I would be surprised if he starts now with the Red Wings eliminated. I think we're going to see Cam Talbot, and there's no trust I have in Cam Talbot right now. The numbers bear that out. He has not had a great season. The few times we have seen him lately, he struggled for the Red Wings, but I have a feeling now that they're out, they'll give Cam Talbot this start. I mean, 3.07 goals against, .888 save percentage. The numbers just aren't that great. The last time he started was against Minnesota. He gave up 5 goals on April 5th. So the last time he started a game, it just hasn't been pretty. He gave up 4 to Vegas in a start. He gave up 5 to Carolina in a start, February 28. We've seen him in a starting spot 3 times. 5 to Carolina, 4 to Vegas, 5 to Minnesota allowed in the 3 Cam Talbot starts post-Olympic break. So I'm interested in Lightning team total over 3.5 in this game. I'm probably going to be betting it either way. I like it more if Talbot's confirmed, and I think he will be the goaltender tonight for Detroit in this game. One thing that's worth noting is Tampa scored 4+ in 2 straight head-to-head encounters against Detroit. They put 4 on the board March 12th against the Red Wings in a 4-1 win. They put 6 on the board November 28th in a 6-3 win over Detroit. So that team total over 3.5. Strong lean to that. Check the Patreon page later to see if it's on the card. There's a chance it will be over 3.5, as low as -110, -118, -120. That's around the range we're seeing right now with Lightning team total over. So I'm interested in that a little bit. As far as goal props tonight for this game, this is one of these times of year where actually player props might be the best market to attack this late in the season, in these last few days of the regular season, because you're going to have players sitting out. You're going to have tons of lineup changes, line combinations that are going to be altered, and it's going to open the door for a lot of player prop value. Really, it's that simple. That's what kind of makes the prop market very exciting at this time of year. If I were to look at anyone for Detroit, Emmett Finney is still on the top line with Larkin and Raymond. If you look at Tampa Bay tonight, Gage Gonsalves with Cirelli and Kucherov. I think Cirelli, Gonsalves clearly on the top line. Both of those guys have some value. Zemgus Girgensson, Braden Point, Corey Perry is listed as a second line for John Cooper tonight. So Perry and Girgensson, probably could be are definitely showing value if that is indeed the second line here for this matchup tonight against the Detroit Red Wings. So, like I said, those are definitely some of the props I'd be interested in. All three of those, to me, have some pretty good value. All right, this is definitely one of the marquee games of the night because of what's at stake. Carolina Hurricanes, Philadelphia Flyers. Philadelphia -150, home favorites. 5.5, 6 the total here in this game. Philadelphia, very simple. Win and you're in. Win and they clinch a playoff spot. Now, if they lose tonight, in regulation, that is, which would be catastrophic considering the lineup Carolina's trotting out there tonight. But let's say they do, they'd have to win tomorrow night against the Montreal Canadiens in their final game, also at home, in order to get in, or a combination of 2 points in these last two games, 2 out of a possible 4 points. They could lose in overtime tonight, lose in overtime tomorrow night, and that would be a way that Philadelphia could still get in the playoffs. So that's where they're at here as far as this one tonight. Now, early this morning, I got Philadelphia -108 on the money line. What a price. Great price. I said, you know what? I've got this weird feeling we're going to see some people sitting for Carolina. It's a question of who. Because Rod Brind'Amour sat Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis, Slavin against Chicago, and then he brought them back against Utah, and then he sat Hall, Stankoven, and some others against Utah. Well, now he's back to the Chicago lineup again tonight, where it's Aho, it's Svechnikov, it's Jarvis, it's Stahl, it's Gostisbehere. They're all out tonight for the Carolina Hurricanes. So I said, Rod Brind'Amour is probably sitting guys. He's actually doing a team that he played 10 seasons for as a player. Remember, he was a former Flyer. So I keep thinking to myself, maybe he's trying to do them a little solid here. There's still a little soft spot in his heart for the Philadelphia Flyers because Rod Brind'Amour played 10 seasons with the Flyers in the 1990s. And he was a really popular, and he was back in the days where they had the Legion of Doom with Mikhail Renberg and John LeClaire and Eric Lindros playing on those Flyers teams. Rod Brind'Amour was on the team at that time. Great era of Philadelphia Flyers hockey. It's always that era of what if. What if Lindros hadn't been just steamrolled by Scott Stevens in the 90s? What would have come, from that era? That could have been, because that's where the beginning and the downfall, the decline of Eric Lindros' career began. So, like I said, Carolina. One thing too, Carolina's breasted. It's worth noting, and that's why I love my price at -108 with Philly. I thought it was a great price, great number, great spot. This line's going to move if Carolina's sitting a lot of their regulars, and sure enough, it moved, and it's moved all the way to -150, -160. I'm even seeing -170 right now at Caesars with the Philadelphia Flyers. I wouldn't take it now. No, you just cannot in good conscience tell someone, bet Philadelphia now when you're getting 60 cents, the worst of it, 70 in some cases. Yeah, you can't do that now. You got to get creative. If you still want to bet Philadelphia that badly in this game, you'd have to go reg. You'd have to go maybe team total over. Maybe you go Carolina team total under. Trust them defensively, maybe to shut down a depleted, shorthanded Carolina team tonight. You'd have to get creative with it a little bit. First period puck line, maybe first period Philadelphia, although that price is not going to be as good anymore either. But there's different ways you'd have to go about it. I still think Philadelphia does get it done. They're the one team in the Eastern Conference that's shown me an ability to just, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. That great old Billy Ocean song. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. That's what Philadelphia has been of late. Other than the Detroit game, and they just got way too undisciplined with penalties in that game. But other than that, look at the way they've responded. They're playing the Islanders, battling for playoffs, beat them in Elmont, New York, 4-1. Boston's a team that was playing for points at the time. Philly beats them 2-1 in overtime. They had the one loss to Detroit. What did they respond? How did they respond after that? They go to Winnipeg and they just crush the Jets 7-1. So, like I said, they've just been one of these teams that they have not, for a change, like Detroit, like the Islanders, like Anaheim last night. They haven't buckled under the pressure. They've played really good hockey under this weight of trying to snap this, 6-7 year playoff drought for the Philadelphia Flyers. I trust them to bring the kind of game they need to get this job done here tonight against a depleted Carolina team. But like I said, I still, if you haven't bet Philly yet, I wouldn't be laying -160. I'm just happy with, what I was able to get with it. As far as props for this game, I mean, Porter Martone, it goes without saying how impressive this kid continues to be for the Philadelphia Flyers in the early going of his NHL career. I wouldn't argue with anything as far as props go on his side tonight in this one. One thing, too, Tyson Foerster still on the top line for Philadelphia as well. And if you look at head-to-head success, Konechny's had a lot of it versus the Carolina Hurricanes as well. One thing to point out as well, Porter Martone, it's not just how well he's played. He's actually scored now in back-to-back games for the Philadelphia Flyers. Noah Cates scored last game as well. Keep an eye on him. It feels like this could be a night, too, that I wouldn't be shocked if Sean Couturier scores. He's the captain. He's really played some solid two-way hockey down the stretch of these big games for the Flyers. So that's something worth keeping an eye on here as well. For Carolina, I think Carolina could get on the scoreboard. They've played pretty hard. They've played for, considering that they don't have much on the line. They've already won their division. They actually can clinch the number one seed in the Eastern Conference with one more point, Carolina. But I don't think it's a be-all, end-all objective for the Carolina Hurricanes to do that. That being said, you look at their lineup tonight with all the absences: Stahl, Jarvis, Aho, Svechnikov out up front. Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, Jackson Blake appears to be their top line. I wouldn't argue with goal props or a player prop bets of any kind involving those three. Hall and Stankoven, when they've been in the lineup, they've been scoring lately for Carolina. So Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, Jackson Blake, too, on that top line. And give me Bradley Nadeau, who's on the second line, it looks like, tonight with Ehlers and Kotkaniemi. I mean, this is tailor-made for the Flyers to get it done. I mean, I just have to look at the lineup and see that Kotkaniemi is a second-line center. I'm like, oh, my God, how the fuck do you not get this done tonight if you're Philadelphia? My thoughts on Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and he is definitely not someone that I think should be a second-line center. I don't think anybody with a hockey brain thinks he should be a second-line center. But here he is tonight as a second-line center for the Carolina Hurricanes. So it's set up on a silver platter for Philadelphia. You just got to go out there, meet the moment, and get the job done. We'll see if Philadelphia can do that here tonight. And what should be a raucous building here for Philadelphia. I mean, this is the biggest regular season home game for Philadelphia in 6-7 years. There's no question about it whatsoever. Dan Vladar will start for Philly. No surprise there. Brandon Bussey for Carolina. What's interesting is that Brandon Bussey enters this game on a 5-game win streak. So, it's not going to be a cakewalk for Philly. I do think they will get it done. I do think they will win. But don't think for a second Philadelphia is automatically going to win 4-1, 5-1 tonight. I think it's definitely a chance that this is a one-goal game in the third period. Very possible. So keep that in mind. I don't know if I love the draw, because if Philadelphia plays their A game, I could see them winning in regulation. But I do have to bring this up. 3 straight meetings between the Flyers and Hurricanes have gone past regulation, and all 3 of them were earlier this season. October in Carolina, 4-3 overtime game. December, back-to-back games, one in Philly, one in Carolina. They both went to a shootout. Carolina won them. Carolina has won, by the way, 16 of the last 17, I believe it is, against Philadelphia. But this is a different scenario altogether. There's a Carolina team with not much at stake, resting players, Philly with everything to play for. That's why, 16-1, yes, you want to be aware of that the Hurricanes have dominated the Flyers to that degree. But I'm not totally convinced that is an indicator of what's to come tonight, where motivation levels are at drastically different levels of the spectrum. All right, next up, we've got the New York Rangers and the Florida Panthers. We've got the Rangers minus 150, road favorites. The total here sitting at, looks like around 6.5 in some spots here in this one, Rangers and Panthers. This game's interesting because I was interested in the over initially. My first thought, Rangers, Panthers, who's playing defense tonight? Florida has been playing to the overs lately, scoring and giving up goals. Meanwhile, the New York Rangers, well, Dallas game the exception, but they've been scoring more goals lately. Their defense is kind of hit or miss. But then we found out the big news for this game pertaining to it. Jonathan Quick, the Hall of Famer, and we know he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, probably first ballot, multiple time Stanley Cup champion, Conn Smythe winner. You know what's shocking about Jonathan Quick, this amazing career he's had, that he never won a Vezina Trophy. That's hard to believe. He's been a finalist for it a couple of times, but never won the Vezina Trophy. Pretty shocking, but that doesn't really take away from what he's been able to achieve. He's had just a phenomenal career as an NHL starting goaltender. Jonathan Quick announced it to reporters this morning. He is retiring after the season. This will be his last season in the NHL, and tonight's start against the Florida Panthers will be his final NHL start of his career. So that kind of changed things for me, because if I'm a player on the New York Rangers and I see that this great legend, this all-time great goaltender, is playing his final game tonight and is retiring after the season, you know what I'm doing as a player? I'm playing hard for this guy. I'm making sure I don't, let him down here in his final game, and I will do everything I can. And normally with these teams that are way out of it and not making the playoffs, defense is optional. If you're ever going to bring something as far as effort and a level of compete at the defensive end of the ice, tonight has to be that night for the New York Rangers. You want to send Jonathan Quick out on a solid note, on a winning note, and you want to do it by playing good team defense, helping him get this final win in his final ever NHL start. So the situationals involving this being Quick's finale is exactly why I did not end up moving on the over. I decided I'm not betting it now, because in theory, this is supposed to be a game where the New York Rangers compete defensively for a team that's obviously been out of it for a very long time. We'll see if that's the case. Daniil Tarasov will be in net here for the Florida Panthers in this game once again. And as we've documented all along, they've got a laundry list of goaltenders out, of players out: Verhaeghe, Bennett, Tkachuk, Gadjevich, Lundell, Reinhart, Rodriguez, Marchand, Barkov, Belinskas, Ekblad, Kulikov, Jones, Mikkola. It is just a ton out for the for the Florida Panthers, of course. They had the 6-2 win, obviously, against Toronto on Saturday night. Toronto wasn't particularly good. Not that we're shocked by that. Let me see. If Florida does play home against Detroit Wednesday night, that is going to be their final game of the season. It's their final home game. So I think when you look at it, they're going to probably have a little more, let's send our great fans. We've won a cup here 2 years in a row prior to this. They'll be, I think, wanting to put a good performance and a final W on the board, possibly against Detroit. Not that they won't tonight either, but I do think the Rangers, with Jonathan Quick, this being his final start, again, I think you see them show some compete on the defensive end of the ice. And I will say this about the New York Rangers. If you actually look at the New York Rangers results in the last 10 games, do you know that, well, they have a 5-5 record, but in the 10 games, they have allowed 3 goals or less to their opponent in 9 of the 10 games. Only once did a team score 4 goals. Actually, sorry, there's 2 games, 8 of the last 10. I forgot Buffalo got to 5 against the Rangers in New York in that 5-3 line. And then there was a game against Toronto where Toronto scored 4. But other than that, they've actually done a better job as far as keeping the goals against down. And in a spot like this where they're trying to send Jonathan Quick out on a high in this great career of his, like I said, I think this could be a spot to show up and play hard defensively, if you're the New York Rangers. BetMGM has Florida team total under 3 at -145. If you don't like the price, you could go under 2.5 with Florida's team total at +115 in that range. If you don't want to lay the juice, I'd actually sprinkled a small bet on Florida team total under 3 -145. And I laid the juice because I want the 3 just in case they score exactly that. But I'm going to take a shot with that. Florida team total under 3 -145 here. Come on, Rangers. This is a game where I'm not saying you block a shit ton of shots, but I'm saying be good, be structured, keep everything to the outside. Don't give up odd man rushes. Play a little bit of a tighter checking game tonight. And let's send Jonathan Quick out with a win. Like, obviously, I don't want to lay -150 with the Rangers. Otherwise, at a cheaper price, I might have been on the Rangers tonight. But I don't want to take it at -150. But I do think that the under team total with Florida, 2.5/3, depending on which one you choose, could be the best approach here. As far as goal props here for the Rangers and the Panthers tonight in this game, when it comes, I would only look at Samoskevich and Greer for Florida as long as they remain on the top line. That's where the value is to me. Perreault, Lafreniere, worth a look here for the New York Rangers. We've seen them obviously step their game up quite a bit lately for them. Sikora's kind of cooled off the last few, but Sheary on the top second line maybe as well. But, Perreault and Lafreniere would be my favorite targets here as far as the New York Rangers. All right, it's on Monday. It's only on Prime. It is the last Amazon Prime Monday night game of the season. Dallas Stars, Toronto Maple Leafs, Dallas -200, road favorites. The total here, 6.5 across the board in this game. For Dallas, my concern here was with the Dallas Stars in this matchup against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Would they rest players? Would players even make the trip, some of them here? But it doesn't look like there's any real major lineup changes other than the players that have already been out, like Sagan, who's on IR, Sam Steele, who's been out for a while, Roope Hintz and Miro Heiskanen, who have been shut down for the rest of the regular season. So other than that, it looks like it's status quo for Dallas. Everyone else is in and playing tonight for them. Other than, of course, it's going to be Casey DeSmith starting for the Dallas Stars tonight, not Jake Ottinger, but it is going to be DeSmith here for the Stars. We are going to see Artur Akhtiamov once again, a second NHL start for him. We thought they'd play hard for him the first time against the New York Islanders, and they threw him to the Wolves, and they had to face over 40 shots on goal in that game. And they didn't play a lick of defense really in front of him. In fact, it could have been a lot worse against the Islanders that night if not for Artur Akhtiamov. I thought he played outstanding, the effort, given the fact he got no help at all from any of his teammates on this Leafs group on Thursday night in his debut. Right away, my first thought is, and I'm not big on the saves props or shots on goal props, but how do you not bet Dallas over shots on goal or Artur Akhtiamov over saves tonight? How do you not take that? I know it's the last home game for Toronto. There's supposed to be some pride. They're supposed to be wanting to send, even in a bad year, dismal, disappointing season, send the home fans out with one good performance, one win, especially with this also being Joe Bowen, the great legendary voice of the Leafs since 1982. He's been doing Leafs games. This is his final home game tonight at Scotiabank Arena before he retires. You've got elements that should make Toronto want to play hard and win this hockey game. But when do you consistently lately see those kind of efforts from the Toronto Maple Leafs? You don't really. Other than Anaheim when they were pissed off at Radko Gudas for taking their captain out, Austin Matthews. Really, I'm being serious. That's the last time we've had one hell of an effort and any kind of emotion and passion and intensity here from this Toronto Maple Leafs team, because they were so angry and really embarrassed It's not so much angry. They tried to save some face because nobody did a damn thing when Gudas first hit Matthews, and they were all riled up for that Anaheim game, and when they beat the Ducks. And really, outside of that, since that Anaheim game, they've lost 5. They haven't won. They haven't won since that Anaheim game. They've lost 5 in a row since that 5-4 overtime win against the Anaheim Ducks. So, I mean, it's supposed to be a spot where you take a shot with Toronto as a home dog here. I just don't know if I can do it. Now, Dallas doesn't have anything on the line. I know they've got everybody playing still, but Dallas does not have anything at stake. They've already clinched second in the Central. They already know they're going to have home ice advantage in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs against the Minnesota Wild. They know that already. So as far as what do you expect here from the Dallas Stars in this game, I'm not exactly sure what's on the line for them. So this is a real hard game. I mean, I would just say hold your breath, take Toronto at plus 170 if I had to. And I don't really want to. And I don't think I'm going to because I just don't freaking trust this bunch whatsoever. I think I'll get to the over 6.5. I expect, kind of a roll the puck out there feel to it. Dallas off a 2-0 game where, that was a game where, I think they dug in defensively after the Minnesota game was kind of a up and down affair. Now with not much on the line, I'm going to take a little shot here with the over by Fecta, first period, full game over here in this Stars Leafs game. And it's not been a bad idea betting Toronto overs anyway. 6-2, 5-3 the last 2 games, both cashed the first period and the full game over. 3 of the last 4 have gone over the total for this Toronto Maple Leafs team as well, as far as both first period and full game over. So I'll dabble in an over by Fecta. I lean Toronto. I just don't know if I have the stomach to make a Leaf bet this late in the year. As far as goal props, there are a couple I like in this game as far as that's concerned. The goal prop market. We have to bet Michael Bunting, guys. We do. Michael Bunting, when he plays Toronto, he's a former Leaf. He always seems to score against them 9 times out of 10, or at least it feels that way. He's definitely scored against them multiple times, and he's on the top line here for the Leafs tonight. Him scoring a goal would not shock me one bit. You're getting a pretty good price for Michael Bunting, and Michael Bunting's actually missed the last handful of games, but he's back tonight. Glenn Gullitson's got him on the top line. You can get plus 445 at Pinnacle for Michael Bunting to score a goal tonight for the Dallas Stars against his old team. And again, Bunting has scored against the Leafs multiple times. Yeah, they've got him slotted with Wyatt Johnston and Mikko Rantanen tonight. Jason Robertson, Matt Duchene, Maverick Bourque on the second line here for the Stars. Ben Artu Huru, Ritskovian on the third line. Oscar Beck, Radek Faksa, Colin Blackwell, the fourth line here for the Dallas Stars. Yeah, there are a few Toronto kids. Yeah, Wyatt Johnston, of course. Yeah, no argument there. I mean, obviously the prices aren't great for Wyatt Johnston, but there's another Toronto kid, plus 175, getting a very good price as well for him to find or not a great price, but he's red hot right now. The form is there. That you can't argue with a Wyatt Johnston goal prop consideration, not at all here in this one. No doubt. What else might be worth a look here? He's a Halliburton, Ontario kid, so it's not right near Toronto, but he's still an Ontario kid. Matt Duchene. Matt Duchene might be someone worth a look here as far as the Dallas Stars are concerned, no question. For Toronto, it is their final home game. I expect some level of, hey, let's try to win. I think. It's hard to believe we're actually saying this shit about any team in their final home game. I think they will want to win. I think they're going to compete hard. But you just are never sure with this fucking Leaf team. You're just never sure. That being said, Easton Cowan, I agree with Robert there with Tavares and Nylander. I think could be worth a shot as far as goal prop is concerned. I would sprinkle with some of these young kids, like a Jacob Quillen and a Luke Hames. These two guys they've played hard. I've seen effort from them since they've been called up to Toronto. And Luke Hames hit a goalpost, I think, against the Islanders last Thursday in his debut. Jacob Quillen has had a couple of chances for Toronto. If I'm going to look at anybody for goal props aside from Easton Cowan, who's actually played hard most nights too for Toronto, I'd look at some of those kids that just got called up from the Marlies, like a Luke Hames and like a Jacob Quillen. and they've actually had some chances to find the back of the net. So I don't hate, a small little a couple of pizza money bets, flyers on those two as far as finding the back of the net. All right, next up, by the way, for the I already mentioned it, yeah, DeSmith and Akhtiyama, the goalies there. All right, San Jose, Nashville. We've got Nashville minus 150, home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. I mean, could you imagine with Nashville playing for their playoff lives? Huge game for them tonight against San Jose. 1 point behind LA for the second wild card spot. They own San Jose. San Jose can never, ever, ever, ever beat this team. And the last time I took a shot with San Jose to end the drought against Nashville, they lost 6-3 to the Predators in San Jose just 9 days ago. So could you imagine that? Could you imagine if tonight's the night the San Jose Sharks end the drought, end the streak, with this being maybe the most critical game and the most critical 2 points for the Nashville Predators here tonight? Could you imagine that? That's when you'd know, wow, crazy shit can happen when you least expect it. But yes, it has been utter dominance for the Nashville Predators over the San Jose Sharks. And they better hope like hell that continues tonight, because if it doesn't, they are suddenly looking at their Stanley Cup playoff hopes being on life support. But they are one back of the San Jose Sharks, of the LA Kings for that second wild card spot. Kings have 87. Nashville Predators have 86. And keep in mind, the Kings still have a game in hand. Kings have 3 games left. Nashville has just 2 games left. And the Kings are also in action tonight. We'll get to that game against Seattle in a moment. But, yeah, I mean, I could only bet Nashville, but minus 150 pregame, I'm not that excited. This is one of those teams where Nashville, that is, I could see them spitting the bit and losing. I'm not saying they are. I'm not saying I think that's going to happen, but I'm saying it could happen. And just the fact it could happen doesn't have me interested in laying minus 150 with the Nashville Predators. I can't do it. Not at this price. If they fall behind, maybe I bet Nashville, because they have to push if they're trailing at any point here in this game tonight. We'll see if that's the case. But, yeah, this is not much here for me in this, other than props. There are a couple of props I like. I like Matthew Wood for Nashville. Wood is good. Obviously, Stamkos has been tremendous. There's no argument if you're going to look in his direction as far as goal props right now for the Nashville Predators. San Jose, that's a good point. They haven't officially been eliminated yet, but it's they have to win out, and LA can't even pick up another. Actually, no, that's not true, because I think San Jose does have the regulation wins tiebreaker over LA. So LA would have to pick up 2 points in their last 3 games, and San Jose would have to win out basically, and LA couldn't pick up more than 1 point in order for San Jose to make the playoffs. That's asking a lot. That definitely is asking a lot. And yeah, I can't even call him useless on it, and I get why Nashville's starting him tonight. He's been he was terrible early in the year. This is almost unbelievable to see the turnaround in Justus Onanen. I mean, he's been excellent. I mean, 1 goal and a win against Minnesota Saturday, shutout 5-0 over Anaheim, 43 saves shutout in that game against the Ducks. He only gave up 3 goals before that in 2 starts. He gave up 1 goal to Vegas, 1 goal to Seattle, 2 goals in a loss to Edmonton, but he only gave up 2 goals. It's been a different Justus Onanen. He has been so much better of late, no question. And even though his overall numbers, are 10, 11, and 1, you look at just the last month or so, it's been a different goalie. And there's a reason why Andrew Burnett's given him as much runway in net as UC Saros right now for the Nashville Predators. So, yeah, this is just a game where it's going to be a live look, if anything, pregame. The total is 6.5. No, I'm not interested really in as far as the total in this spot. Although I will say the last 2 have gone over. 3 of the last 4 and 5 of the last 6 have gone over between these 2 teams. Maybe at 5.5, I'll jump in live with an over if we get a 5.5 at some point, but not at pregame. Both teams to score. I don't hate that, Robert. I could see it. Big game, early goals. Yeah, I actually could see it. Does San Jose believe they've got a shot still? Because they are mathematically alive still. Like I said, they need everything to go right. They got to win this. LA's got to lose out. That's their only pathway to get in, San Jose. But they are mathematically still alive. So at least maybe early in this game, you get urgency and you get an effort from them. So the first period, both teams to score, I think there's reasons conceptually to think that makes sense here in this game tonight. All right. By the way, did I mention any San Jose props? I would say Chernyshov with Celebrini and Smith. There's some value there. And I would say maybe Kiefer Sherwood again, because here we go. He's facing another former team. Kiefer Sherwood was with Nashville for a couple of seasons. So Kiefer Sherwood for San Jose. I don't mind looking in that direction either for a goal prop here. All right. Minnesota Wild, St. Louis Blues. Look at this price. This was Minnesota favored on the road initially. And now it's all of a sudden St. Louis minus 170, home favorites. Total here, 5.5 across the board. Obviously, look, Minnesota, we've got multiple key players out tonight for them. As John Hines, again, there's nothing at stake here for Minnesota. They are just trying to play out the string. They know they're playing Dallas. They know that they're going to Dallas for game one. There's nothing on the line here. Ryan Hartman, Matt Boldy, Kirill Kaprizov, Joel Eriksson Ek, Matt Zuccarello, Marcus Foligno, Quinn Hughes, Brock Faber, all out for this game tonight. So, like I said, not totally shocked. Problem is, if you can't bet St. Louis now at minus 170, but I don't want Minnesota. I think if you're going to bet the Blues here, you could maybe go team total over or first goal, first period. I could see that happening. But the problem is St. Louis, they've been eliminated from the playoffs. That being said, they did beat Chicago, and we thought maybe that would be a little bit of a downer spot for them in that game, but they still took care of business against the Blackhawks 5-3. They do play Pittsburgh at home tomorrow night. That will be their final home game, and then they go on the road Thursday to finish the season at Utah. So there is still 3 games left here for the St. Louis Blues. Yeah, the over. Boring bets. I think at 5.5, I'm going to bet over now. We saw a drop in defensive intent. Remember, that Chicago game for St. Louis on Saturday, that was the first game they've played since getting knocked out of the playoffs. So we saw a drop in their defensive intensity. You could tell it was more of an up and down game, 5-3. They did give up 3 goals to Chicago in that game. Minnesota off a 2-1 loss to Nashville. Minnesota before that had been kind of going over again. Now, again, a lot of artillery out of the lineup with Kaprizov, Boldy, 2 of your best puck movers and, power play defensemen out, and Quinn Hughes and Brock Faber. But at 5.5, I think I can get there with an over. Again, I'm keeping everything small here, including this, because you never quite know. But Minnesota is still on a pretty solid 5-2 over streak in their last 7 games. The Blues went over the total after getting knocked out of the playoffs against Chicago. We have seen 3 of the last 5 meetings go over between these 2 teams head-to-head. So now with this total at 5.5, and it dropped from 6 to 5.5 because of all the absences for Minnesota. But I think at 5.5, I can make a case for over in this game. As far as props go, I think we have to take a look in this direction here for Minnesota. This is a sneaky one. I like Urov for Minnesota. First-line center now with Tarasenko and Johansson. I mean, Tarasenko's a former Blues player. You could see him maybe finding the back of the net for Minnesota as well. But Urov, Tarasenko, Bobby Brink on the second line. Here's a sneaky one, too, for Minnesota. He's in the lineup because of all the absences. He was claimed off waivers by Minnesota over a month ago. Robbie Fabry. Robbie Fabry is now 30 years old. He's now with Minnesota. Of course, spent a good majority of his early part of his career with the St. Louis Blues. Why not a little Robbie Fabry, who's going to be on the top line, or not the top line, the 4th line only for Minnesota tonight, but he's going to be in the lineup. Former St. Louis Blues player. There's an opportunity for him, if he has any inkling whatsoever of trying to kickstart another NHL career for himself at this late stage and all the injuries he's had. He's going to want to have a good game and a good showing tonight. So why not a little Robbie Fabry here as far as a goal prop for Minnesota drawing into the lineup here against his old team? Yeah, Snuggerud going back to Minnesota. Well, actually, that's not true. Well, this game's in St. Louis, Robert, but I hear what you're saying. He's from Minnesota, so it's against, a team from his state. So I don't hate it. And he's been good anyway offensively. So, but I would say it's just, you bet him his goal prop because he's been pretty good offensively for St. Louis. But, yeah, those are some of the props I'm eyeing there for the Wild and the Blues. All right, we move to Buffalo, Chicago. Buffalo minus 200, road favorites. The total here at 6.5, shaded to the under in this game. There is one more home game left for Chicago. So that's the one where not that they're going to not want to have a good effort tonight. That's the one maybe you get even more emphasis for Chicago in this matchup here, Sabres and Blackhawks. What I would say here is Chicago still defensively has been disastrous, really, the last couple of games. Carolina scored 7, St. Louis has scored 5. It is Spencer Knight, but Spencer Knight, it didn't matter that Spencer Knight was in net when a Carolina team resting Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis, all those guys were still able to score 7 goals against this Chicago Blackhawks team. That's a concern, obviously, tonight. And Buffalo still got very much a division to play for. They're trying to nail down an Atlantic division, and at the very least, home ice advantage for the Buffalo Sabres going into this one. Spencer Knight in net. It looks like Frank Nazar will play. There was some concern he might miss this game. Got injured last game, but he's good to go. Spencer Knight, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen will be in net here for Buffalo. Chicago's just been a disaster defensively, and it was a good quote, too, from Jeff Blashill talking about the struggles, the issues during this 3-game losing streak. They've come back home to start 0-2 on this homestand with the 7-2 and the 5 to Carolina, and the 7-2 loss to Carolina, the 5-3 loss to St. Louis. Blashill saying there's fragility to our team right now, more than even fatigue. I think guys are starting to struggle a bit. The issue with where we're at is we don't have guys to lean on to pick you up a little bit when you're struggling. We're all struggling together, so we're just trying to grind through it. These are hard lessons, but it's also life isn't easy. You never have the opportunity to learn from it if you don't go through it. So clearly there's some issues right now with Chicago. I'm just going to keep it simple and straightforward. I think Buffalo can get me 4 goals tonight against this Chicago team that has given up 7 and 5 in their last 2 games. A Buffalo Sabres team that has also scored 9 against Chicago back in November, scored 6 against Chicago last year when they played, and their last trip to Chicago, they scored 4 in a 4-2 win. They've won 5 straight versus Chicago, and in the last 3 wins for Buffalo against Chicago, they've scored at least 4. So I'm going to have confidence and faith in the Sabres getting me to 4 tonight against this Blackhawks team, especially with so much still on the line for the Sabres as far as a possible Atlantic Division crown is concerned. So Buffalo team total over 3.5, minus 118 for me in this game tonight. As far as goal props here with the Sabres and the Blackhawks, Josh Doan, it's worth noting, he's picked it up again, scored last game. Jack Quinn, he scored last game for Buffalo. You're still getting, obviously, for the Sabres, based on their current lineup configuration, Peyton Krebs with Thompson and Tuck. Krebs did score last game for the Sabres in their who did they play again last game? I'm forgetting. It's been a while, I think, since they played. Yeah, they played Columbus back on Thursday. So this is actually 3 days off between games. That's another thing, too. Huge rest advantage for Buffalo. This late in the season to get that many days off, that is definitely significant and should help the Buffalo Sabres tonight from an energy standpoint. For Chicago, I know Alex B. Smith mentioned him last game, up on the top line with Connor Bedard and Nick Lardis. He was moved up there, and he scored one of the 3 goals against St. Louis. Ryan Green, why not? Ilya Mikheyev, too. He started to pick it up a little bit and find the back of the net, playing with Frondell and Bertuzzi. So for Chicago, I'd probably look at Ryan Green, Ilya Mikheyev as far as goal props. All right, we move on to the next one, Colorado, Edmonton. We've got Colorado minus 120 road favorite, 6.5 the total in this game. Yeah, I'm on Edmonton. I'm fading Colorado again. I'm sure you guys aren't that shocked by it. Now, it didn't work with Calgary, but it did work with Vegas on Saturday when we took the Golden Knights as they won a 3-2 decision in overtime against this Colorado team. It's just a motivational mismatch here. Colorado's locked into first in the Central. Colorado's locked into the number 1 seed in the West. I actually thought their effort was commendable against Vegas. They still played reasonably with some intention, despite losing that game against Vegas. But there's just so much more to play for Edmonton. They're off a shutout loss to LA. Probably not going to be too thrilled with that. Coming back home here against the Colorado Avalanche. I'm on Edmonton here, plus 100, keeping it straightforward. We'll see how it goes. I don't know about the team total because this could be like 3-1, 3-2. Although I will say this, with Edmonton and Colorado, it's been a goal fest, goal bonanza, over fiesta here, these two teams. We go back 4 straight meetings, all of them going over the total. 4-0 to the over, 4-3, 5-4, 9-1, 4-3. Final scores of the last 4 head-to-head meetings between the Avalanche and the Oilers. So I think when you look at this matchup here, definitely I think the over by Fecta can get there here. Don't think there's going to be utmost defensive intensity on the Colorado side, but I'm on Edmonton here. Probably will split team total, but put a little more of my stake on the money line rather than the team total. If you're asking me right now, it's probably going to be a 80-20 split for me. We'll have 80% on the Oilers money line and just a smaller 20% portion on the team total here in this one. So again, we'll ride the series history. It's 4 straight meetings have gone to 7+ goals between the Avalanche and Oilers. So we'll roll with that. Ingram confirmed in net for the Edmonton Oilers. No surprise there. And it looks like Jason Dickinson, Zach Hyman still out for the Oilers. By the way, for Dallas, we talked about how Cale Makar, obviously, they're being cautious with him down the stretch. He's missed 6 straight games. Won't play tonight either against Edmonton. They also suffered an injury on defense against Vegas over the weekend. Josh Manson got injured Saturday against Vegas. He will not play tonight for the Colorado Avalanche. And that's someone that you talk about the overs here. That's a guy, his absence should help the over. That's a stay-at-home defenseman, blocks shots, does a lot of the gritty, grimy, dirty work defensively for the Avs. And Josh Manson will not play here tonight for the Colorado side in this game. So that probably opens the door now maybe to have some more goals tonight offensively between these two teams. As far as goal props with Colorado and Edmonton, let me see here. Let me look at their lineup tonight. It looks like, Lehkonen, McKinnon, Landeskog, Big Val Nichushkin, Brock Nelson, Marty Necas is the top 6 tonight from all indications. And by the way, Jared Bednar will hope he's okay. He took a puck in the face of the other night in the head area against Vegas. A scary moment. Something to keep in mind. We'll see if he's behind the bench or not tonight. But I would say as far as goal props, Nichushkin is someone to maybe look at. I've talked to Lehkonen. There's probably some value on the Colorado side for Edmonton. Vasily Podkolzin, Matt Savoy. No-brainers now when it comes to goal props for me with Edmonton. As long as those two guys are playing with number 97, Connor McDavid, they're definitely worth a look as far as goal props. So Podkolzin, Savoy. I like Isaac Howard. I agree with Perlo. Isaac Howard with Nugent Hopkins and Roslovic. There's value there. Roslovic too. You go with that group because they still don't get consistency. They still don't get a ton from Szymanski and Colton Dock. And Curtis Lazar actually did score one of the games recently, but they're not getting still a ton from the bottom 6. A lot of the production continues to be Podkolzin, McDavid, Savoy, Nugent Hopkins, Roslovic, and it looks like Isaac Howard is going to be up there on that second line tonight for the Oilers as well. So that's definitely offering the door, I think, for a little bit of value here as well. All right, we got 2 games left. Los Angeles, Seattle, LA minus 170 road favorites, 5.5 the total in this one. I'm not taking LA, but I'll say this, though. Seattle beat Vegas at home. They had a brutal road trip. It ended their playoff dreams. It ended their playoff hopes. They come back home, tough spot, too, off a long road trip. And they, of all teams, Seattle, are the team that handed the Vegas Golden Knights their first loss under John Tortorella. So if I'm LA, I wouldn't just dream about this being a cakewalk. And by the way, they don't make it a cakewalk for themselves very often anyway, the LA Kings. So we'll see. Seattle want to get up for this game and play spoiler. They were down 3-1 against Vegas in their last game. And that was a Seattle team that was, or a couple games ago, I should say, when they were down 3-1 to Vegas after that dreadful road trip and that 6-game losing streak that ended their playoff hopes. But they somehow summoned the inspiration, the emotion, the passion to come back down 3-1 and beat Vegas in a shootout 4-3. And then we saw them beat Calgary Saturday night 4-1 on home ice as well, the Seattle Kraken. So, like I said, it would be so LA Kings to struggle with this Seattle team tonight and struggle with this Seattle team they have. Seattle is 5-1 in the last 6 meetings versus the Los Angeles Kings. That is worth mentioning. 5-1 the last 6 for Seattle over LA. 3-0 this season. December they won twice, the Kraken over the Kings, and then they beat them 4-2 in LA back on February 4th. I think that's the spot where one of those spots, and Seattle had that crazy losing streak on back-to-backs, and they snapped it by beating LA. I'm very tempted by the home dog here. I'll admit that. I mean, I know I was fishing for LA to stub their toe against Vancouver, and they didn't, winning that game by a score of 4-1. And they have, by their standards, started to put it together. 4 straight wins, 5 of the last 6, piling up these points to help solidify what they hope is a playoff spot. But now you got to go on the road and try to do it. And the Kings overall still have a better road record than home record. But if you look at the shorter term for the Kings on the road, it's been more of an up and down stretch for them on the road. Since February 1st, lost to Carolina on the road, lost to Vegas on the road, beat Columbus in overtime, lost to Boston, beat the Islanders, lost to the Devils, beat the Rangers, lose to Utah, lose to Calgary, beat Vancouver. I've got them 4-6, if I'm not mistaken. 4-6 in their last 10 road games, the Los Angeles Kings, since February 1st. I think that's accurate. 4-6, the LA Kings in their last 10 road games. And they're laying $170, a pressure spot, needing to keep stacking points to get into the playoffs against a team that's loose as a goose, no pressure on them, relaxed. Home fans are there. You still want to try to finish the season here with a victory on home ice. Actually, Seattle goes on the road for 2 after this. So this is the home finale. This is fan appreciation night at Climate Pledge for the Seattle Kraken, because they go to Vegas and Colorado after this. I'm telling you what, this is going to be a scary-ass game for LA. You can book it. This is not going to be easy on them. I'm tempted by Seattle, plus 150. I like the draw. I'm not on as many draws tonight, but this is the one I like. Because if this game's tied, it's going to be gentleman's agreement, handshake agreement. LA will do everything in their power to not make mistakes, be cautious, get the game to overtime. So the draw for sure will be in pocket. I will have that on the card. And I'm leaning to Seattle, taking a shot that this home dog is going to be a spoiler to this still, at this stage of the season, erratic LA team. No question. So, but the draw for sure, maybe a smaller stance on Seattle as well at this big plus price. It should be Forsberg. It should be Forsberg for the LA Kings. There's nothing to even question here. He's been terrific. His play in net has been a main catalyst for them getting on this little bit of a groove and putting themselves in the second wild card spot right now. And yes, it is Anton Forsberg. That is indeed confirmed here in this game tonight. Now, keep in mind, for the Seattle Kraken, Grubauer and Decord, they're still on the injury report. Looking at it as day-to-day, and it looks like tonight, the man they call Nike, Nicholas is his name, but they call him Nike Coco. It's a great name. I mean, it really, really is. I mean, he's born Nicholas, but they call him Nike, and I think the Seattle is basically calling him Nike, because I heard John Forsland the other night say Nike Coco. That's a great name. Doesn't that just roll off the tongue? Nike Coco. Nike Coco is probably going to be in net tonight for the Seattle Kraken, fresh off an NHL victory against the Calgary Flames when he started against them on Saturday night, and he played pretty solidly in that game. Now, Calgary's Calgary. We understand that. We get that. This will be a little bit more of a challenge, especially a motivated team trying to make the playoffs. No question. But for his first NHL start, Second NHL appearance, first NHL start. Pretty rock solid for Nikkei Coco for the Seattle Kraken against Calgary the other night. So, like I said, the scary-ass game for LA. Knowing this Kings team as well as we do, I just have that feel in the pit of my stomach. It's not going to be an easy night for the Los Angeles Kings. As far as goal props tonight, you look at the Seattle Kraken. We talked about Bobby McMahon a lot, clearly, and there's a reason for that. He's been excellent, and he is still on the top line, it looks like, in this game tonight for the Seattle Kraken. Bobby McMahon with Matty Beniers and Jordan Eberle. Chandler Stevenson with Tolvanen and Schwartz. Stevenson, I believe, scored in the Calgary game, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, he did. So this could be a night with Chandler Stevenson here for the Seattle Kraken. You're getting plus 500 with him. That's a pretty good goal price. That's probably something worth maybe taking a look at here for Seattle. For Los Angeles, as far as goal props in this game, Panarin gets the only goal against Edmonton, and it stands up for the 1-0 win against Edmonton, that breakaway goal. But I would look toward, maybe more Laferriere on the second line. I talked about Armia. It kind of stepped up lately. This kind of feels like it could be a Scott Laughton game, too. I really think that he has shown up in these bigger games. His work ethic, his compete level's been there. This feels like the kind of game where a guy like Scott Laughton, who really plays his, ass off in these bigger games, could end up finding the back of the net. Oh, there we go. Jonathan backing me up with Chandler Stevenson that he scored 3 times against Anton Forsberg. So he's also had that success against him head-to-head. All right, last game. Winnipeg Jets, Vegas Golden Knights. We've got Vegas minus 180. Home favorites in this game. The total here sitting at, looks like 6, shaded to the under here in this one. Vegas still trying to win a Pacific Division. It's a 3-horse race, them, Edmonton, and Anaheim, as far as trying to win the Pacific Division. They've already clinched a playoff spot, Vegas. But the division is still on the line. Home ice advantage in the first round. At least finish second in the Pacific is still on the line here. No question. And Winnipeg's, we talked about it. Winnipeg's unbackable to me right now. They had their season end with the St. Louis loss. That's actually not the game that ended. No, they beat St. Louis. My bad. But still, it was the. I'm blanking on it now. Philadelphia. That's right. Philadelphia lost 7-1 on Saturday. That was the season ender, pretty much, for the Winnipeg Jets. And their playoff hopes. They are still officially in. They're not mathematically out yet, but they're like San Jose. It's not happening. They need the LA Kings to absolutely puke all over themselves, and Winnipeg has to win all 3 of their remaining games to even have a shot to get in. And it's probably not at. Did it look like a Winnipeg team that believed they could make the playoffs with that fucking pathetic effort against Philadelphia on Saturday? No, they know it's done. I can't back them right now, even getting plus 150. Vegas minus 180, I'm not so sure about that necessarily either. Team total, no, because look, Vegas, they've won 5 of the 6 games under John Tortorella so far, 5-1 since the coaching change. But the last 3 games, they've scored 3 goals or less. So they're kind of doing it with just scoring enough and playing solid defensively, getting good goaltending. So that's kind of been the status, the standard operating procedure here for Vegas of late. They are also off a 4-game road trip. You know how I feel about that. I don't love backing teams coming off a road trip of that length necessarily. So this is not a game I'm going to be involved with too much pregame. More so the prop market. Can only look at the Vegas side, whether that's first period, puck line, first goal, first period, something like that. Team total. But again, the team total, they've scored 3 or less in 3 straight. So I'm not totally convinced they go over 3.5 here. And I still think it is going to be Connor Hellebuck tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. Yes, it is. It is going to be Connor Hellebuck here for the Jets. Carter Hart confirmed in net once again for Vegas. No shock whatsoever. Guys, I'm telling you, Carter Hart's going to be the game 1 starter in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We are now seeing that. It's going to be Carter Hart. It's clearly he has displaced Adin Hill. I think we're at that point. Plus, again, John Tortorella worked with Carter Hart in Philadelphia. I mean, if you read the tea leaves, all the writing is on the wall right now that Carter Hart is going to be that game 1 Stanley Cup playoff starting goaltender for the Vegas Golden Knights. As far as goal props here for this Winnipeg and Vegas game tonight, Mark Stone, I know Jonathan brought him up in the chat. He scored in back-to-back games, 3 of the last 5 goals against Connor Hellebuck in the last 11 games. Pavel Dorofeyev scored last game, and you know what it's like with a guy like that. You know, when he kind of finally gets off the schneid, he can go on a bit of a heater. So the Pavel Dorofeyev look, I don't mind that whatsoever. As far as a goal prop for Vegas, close shave Barbashev with Eichel and Stone. There's that. And I'm going to go back to the well one more time with Brett Howden. Brett Howden is still up there with Marner and Dorofeyev on the second line. So there's still some pretty good value with Brett Howden as far as goal scorer prop moving forward into the game tonight. So those are some of the props I'm looking at specifically for the Vegas Golden Knights here in this one tonight. All right, great stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. Thanks for hanging with me here. Solo show, solo mission on this edition of the Ice Guys for a Monday with yours truly. And looking forward to tomorrow as well. We're going to have, obviously, Alex B. Smith back in the house. And again, 3 more regular season shows after this. Make sure you check out wizardsportspicks.com. Again, daily premium picks, and again, long-term subscription passes available. Profitable NHL season, profitable NBA season. They're still ongoing. Playoffs approaching. MLB now underway. So check it out, wizardsportspicks.com. And, of course, patreon.com/iceguys, $10 per month. Goalie charts, totals charts, daily betting card, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page. And, again, very, very important. Sign up in the next, day or two, because we are going to have a Patreon exclusive live betcast, one more before the end of the regular season later this week. So make sure, if you want to join us for that betcast, get on board as a Patreon member. It's just $10 per month. We have one more regular season live betcast, which will be exclusive to our Patreon members coming up this week. So make sure you sign up for that. Plus, we're going to have 2 in the Stanley Cup playoffs first round toward the end of April. Both of those betcasts in the first round will be Patreon exclusive as well to our members on the Patreon page. So get on board. You get all the bonus content. We've got a couple more Players Suite interview series shows coming up as well. We've got Jake Stevens, who's played pro hockey for years. We've got him on the radar to do a Players Suite interview. Taylor Lear, who is a Saskatchewan guy and actually played in the NHL briefly with the Philadelphia Flyers many years ago. He was in their organization for a bit, Taylor Lear. Taylor Lear will be a Players Suite interview series we've got coming up in the next few weeks as well. So stay tuned for that. So again, all of that you'll get as a Patreon member. Your membership goes a long way to supporting the show and keeping it going long term. It's $10 per month. Check it out. Patreon.com/IceGuys. And of course, the Ice Guys store. Get your gear and your merch over at the Ice Guys store. That's at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night and best bet coming up right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
All right, bargain bin special of the night for this Monday NHL slate. We've got 10 games to choose from. Let me just, because Alex sent along his card for tonight. If you want the full card, all of his plays, they'll be posted, as always, on the Patreon page later this afternoon. So again, patreon.com/IceGuys. But we will mention what his bargain bin special of the night is for this Monday. And he has 2 bargain bin specials. And as you would guess, they both come from the Chicago Blackhawks game as they take on the Buffalo Sabres tonight. Alex is rolling with Josh Doan for Buffalo, plus 320 for one of his bargain bin specials from that game. And his second one is Nick Lardis for the Chicago Blackhawks, the former Hamilton Bulldog, at plus 330. So Josh Doan, Buffalo, Nick Lardis, Chicago for Alex B. Smith with his two bargain bin specials of the night for this Monday night slate. Bargain bin specials of the night for me. I was debating whether to, I was going to just maybe stick with one here tonight, but I actually am going to go with a couple here as far as a bargain bin special of the night. One is going to be Robbie Fabry. I'm feeling it with Robbie Fabry tonight. He's going to be in the lineup. We know he's capable offensively, certainly was in the height of his career. He's going to be on the, only on the fourth line, but he's a former member of the St. Louis Blues. You're getting plus 630 for Robbie Fabry of the Minnesota Wild tonight. I like it. I like how it sets up. He's going to be excited against one of his former teams. So I'm going to go with Robbie Fabry back in the lineup with all the scratches tonight for Minnesota. It opens the door for an opportunity for him. So Robbie Fabry, Minnesota, plus 630 for my first of two bargain bin specials tonight. My second one, we're going to Dallas, Toronto. Give me Michael Bunting. Have to. It just makes too much sense that Michael Bunting scores tonight. Up on the top line as well for the Dallas Stars tonight. This guy's made a career not made a career, but he's had a habit of scoring against his former teams, especially the Toronto Maple Leafs in the past. And we can get plus 445 with Michael Bunting to find the back of the net. So there you have it. Michael Bunting, Dallas, plus 445, and Robbie Fabry for Minnesota, plus 630 for my bargain bin specials of the night. I don't mind Gonzalez either, Nick. That's a good one. That was on the list. That was on the short list for me as well with a bargain bin. But for me, we'll go with Bunting and we'll go with Fabry for my bargain bin specials for this Monday night. All right, best bets. We'll start with Alex. Alex's best bet, first period over, LA Kings, Seattle Kraken. Los Angeles, Seattle, first period over, 1.5, minus 112. I didn't mention that earlier. I could see it. And the Kings did score a first period goal, the only goal they scored against Edmonton. They'll probably play with some incentive to get on the board early. There could be a frenetic pace early, and Seattle's still long-term. Now, the last two Seattle games, I believe, have stayed under in the first period, but prior to that, it had been a huge first period over streak for Seattle. So LA, Seattle, first period over for Alex with his best bet. I might sprinkle on that too. My best bet for this Monday NHL card, the prices moved too much on Philly, or else Philly would have been best bet. Can't be now. I'm going to go to Edmonton. Edmonton Oilers, plus 105. We cashed a best bet against Colorado on Saturday. It's just a motivational edge for Edmonton here tonight, just like it was for Vegas on Saturday against Colorado. We'll see if we can successfully, for the second game in a row, pick on the Colorado Avalanche here tonight. Give me Edmonton, plus 105 against the Colorado Avalanche for my best bet here for this Monday night. All right, shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And again, excited about the last 3 days of the regular season coming up. We've got another Patreon exclusive live betcast coming up as well. Looking forward to that. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll see you again tomorrow on Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern for another edition of the Ice Guys.